football fans will have a greater say in how their clubs are run. Well, in theory, now that the Football Governance Bill has been passed into law by MPs today. Our sports news correspondent, Geraint Hughes, is here to explain it all for us. Right, what's happened today and why has it happened today?
Right, it's because of actually what happened about 10, 12 days ago when MPs did vote, finally, because it's been going through the Lords and the Commons for most of this year, majority for it to become law. Today, though, it's down to the King. For any piece of legislation, it has to have what's known as Royal Assent. And that is the signature from the King. And once it has that signature, that piece of paper has to go back to the Lords and be told, this is law. Then goes to the Commons, this is law. And only until then do you actually get a bill that becomes law. So the Football Governance Bill, as we've been talking about for nearly 5 years, it's now the Football Governance Act. It is law, becomes legislation, because the King has signed it into Royal Assent and the Lords and the Commons have acceded it, and it goes through. And it's it now, after all this time. That's how practically today it's become law. But it's been a turbulent process to this point, Mike, through Dame Tracy Crouch's fan-led review, which was completed in late 2021. Through to where are we now? Through almost getting through the last Parliament, but then there was a summer general election. Bill gets scrapped, comes back, being through a process with the Lords and the Commons to this point today. That's what's actually happened today. So it's a weird one, very strange, but all to do with the King's signature.
But explain this for us, right? Why has the government, and not just this government, decided they've got to get involved in football?
Right, I'll take you back to, I mentioned there, Dame Tracy Crouch. She was commissioned to do what's called a fan-led review. Began it in 2020, completed in 2021. It's actually about 3 things back then. 2 will be we'll go, oh yeah, that makes a little bit of sense. Yeah. Threat of a breakaway European Super League. Remember that? No. When that first, yes. Oh, yes. Do you remember that? Do you remember that? Then also, it was the collapse of Bury. 2019, they're expelled from the EFL. Less than a year later, they're in administration. They are no more. Yet the Phoenix has risen, but not that club that was in the EFL in 2019. And then what was going on at this time as well, which people are looking into? The effects, financial and non-financial, of the COVID-19 pandemic. Those were the 3 initial things this fan-led review led to. It morphed into many, many other things. Richard Masters from the Premier League, Rick Parry from the EFL, the chair of the FA, many stakeholders in football hauled in front of MPs. And when they're hauled in front of MPs, they're kind of underprivileged. They can ask them about anything they want. They can say pretty much what they want. So some of these hearings were at times a bit brutal and exposed where areas of debate, where areas of compromise, where areas of disagreement came around what was going to be the Football Governance Bill. So it's going to have an independent football regulator. He or she will be in place later in the year. We'll talk about that in a moment. But what are the core of this bill does it do? Greater protection to help nurture the game and supporters. For example, more say over club badges, more say within the running of their clubs as well. But one of the biggest things, what's football about? It's an industry driven by, let's not beat around the bush, finances, money. And there's been this to and fro between the Premier League and the EFL about a revenue stream that goes down the pyramid from the Premier League. The Premier League generates a huge amount of money, gives a huge amount of money, but that has to be negotiated, renegotiated and changed. And they haven't been able to come to an agreement for quite a long time. So this is one of the things that the regulator would have a backstop power to do, to intervene. It's a contentious issue, and it still hasn't been resolved. The Premier League and the EFL are still negotiating. So I've just within the last half an hour, I've spoken with the Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport, Lisa Nandy. She is the minister in charge, the cabinet minister in charge of getting this bill through Parliament and everything that has to happen today. I asked her straight out, right, you've got a regulator, it'll be in place soon. You've got all these other things, but one of the things was to get a revenue stream model, financial agreement between the Premier League and the EFL. What's going on? What's happening? This is what she told me.
I've spoken to both the Premier League and the EFL in recent weeks, and I am very optimistic and hopeful that an agreement will be forthcoming without the need for the regulator to intervene and take a view. The way that we've constructed the regulator, he or she will have a conversation, an ongoing conversation with the leagues to see if they can help to bring about an agreement. But if that agreement is not forthcoming, fans now have a backstop. There is somebody who will be able to step in and force a decision to take a view about a fairer financial distribution, and then to make sure that that's implemented. So one way or another, we will get there, and we'll get there quickly, after many, many years of football failing to agree. But whether it has to rely on the regulator to intervene is now a question for football. It's time for football to step up, come together and reach its own agreement.
OK, Lisa Nandy there. All right, you've told us what today means, but just as importantly, tell us what today doesn't mean.
It doesn't mean tomorrow morning that the regulator will be getting the Premier League and the EFL together, because there is no regulator yet, which is one of the main parts of this bill. The Independent Football Regulator is not in place yet. They have a preferred candidate, a man called David Cogan. We've spoken about him, you and I. We've seen him being grilled by MPs, but he's not in place yet, and it will still be a little bit of time before he is. However, there is a shadow regulator working in place, and that's been in place since January. The job of that is to get the office ready so that when David Cogan, if he is the preferred candidate, becomes the candidate, is put in place, he can start work immediately. I think, talking to Lisa Nandy now, things like this, the owners and directors test, they can almost be implemented relatively quickly. But for example, this backstop power, this light touch backstop power they hope they'll have between the Premier League and the EFL, that can't happen tomorrow. But it does sound, again, from what Lisa Nandy's saying, and also my discussions with the Premier League and the EFL, not just in the last half an hour, but over weeks and months, is that those talks, they are challenging, they are difficult, but they are progressing. And they are coming, they are hopeful of getting, as the Secretary of State said there, hopeful of coming to an agreement themselves before a regulator would have to intervene. Because that is one of the concerns of this regulator, is that it wouldn't be light touch, that it would interfere, it would get involved. And what football doesn't want, certainly when you look at sort of the Premier League and stuff, is to harm what is not just a national treasure, but is a great global product for UK PLC. It generates billions of pounds. If you damage that in any way, well, that means whatever financial agreements agreed to, it will be less, because less could be coming into the game. Those are the concerns around the regulator. We won't know exactly how it will play out until it's in place, but we keep on hearing these two words, light touch. Protect the Premier League, but also protect all the other clubs. We were speaking about Morecambe as well. Just a bit of news about that. Speaking to Lisa Nandy there, I said, is it too late for Morecambe? She said, definitely not. Well, that'll be music to their ears, considering they're in the strife at the moment as well. So the bill has many, many, many good things, and many, many things which people don't quite know how it's going to work until it's played out.